Caseus. Jedi Redeemed. Chapter 4. It was days before Caseus left his room. As much as he wanted to be left alone, his medical quarters began to feel like more of a prison cell than Kessel. A fresh outfit was set out for him a day earlier, but he had neither the will nor the desire to get out of his bed. Forcing himself to get dressed, he walked out of his room and through the vine-covered walls of the Massassi Temple, passing by rebel communications officers, soldiers, and droids. The rebellion had grown in number over the years. Not that it mattered much to him anymore. Any desire to fight back had long since left him. Walking towards the main hangar, Caseus saw pilots and engineers tending to their ships and crafts. Stepping past them, he walked outside and gazed out at the Yavin rainforest as drops of warm midday rain fell on his face. Locked away for so long, he missed how freely water came on other planets.
Caseus?
Closing his eyes, Caseus stayed quiet as Bendel walked over, cleaning his hands.
You holding up?
When can you guys take me off-world?
Off-world? What are you talking about?
You don't think I'm staying, do you?
Caseus, with everything that's happened, I know why you're feeling this way, but are you just going to give up and leave these people that need you?
What they need is to give up and get out while they can.
I'm afraid that's not an option now. We've all sacrificed too much to quit. We're seeing this through, Caseus. With or without you.
And it'll be your funeral. And when the day soon comes when this rebellion is overtaken by the Empire, in all of its terrible glory, maybe you'll understand.
You don't seem to have much faith for a Jedi.
No, I don't.
Well, then that's on you, Caseus. Zuturi would be ashamed of you.
Caseus turned to Bendel and stepped close to the young man, staring him in the eyes. Zuturi's dead. Saying nothing more, Caseus stepped back inside of the temple and over to Kresh, who was fixing a few blaster marks on the hull of the Arabella. Kresh, come find me when you get a chance to drop me off on the farthest system from here. Lifting his goggles, Kresh snorted in confusion as Caseus left to be alone.
Don't listen to him, Kresh. Maybe Gaidom can talk some sense into him.
Walking through the ancient halls, Caseus finally found a quiet spot to sit on an old crate of used fuel canisters. Cupping his hands over his face, he slicked his long brown hair back over his head and let out a sigh of exasperation.
You know, I think my favorite thing about Liara was how kind she was.
Caseus turned to his left and saw Pip sitting a few feet away on an old speeder engine.
Droids don't really die. If anything, we just waste away and break down. I figured at some point I'd see at least one of you go. I just didn't think it would be so soon.
Caseus looked at the pit droid and back to the ground. What happened anyway? I saw you get blasted to pieces.
You and Liara never reported back to the rendezvous. After a few days, Gaidom led a search party. It was weeks before they found the nebulous, drifting through empty space. They fixed me up and tried to figure out what happened, but I wasn't much help. Gaidom didn't give up, though. He searched for you for years. He never expected to find you on Kessel.
I'm leaving soon, Pip. I can't stay here.
Where are you gonna go?
It doesn't really matter at this point. There's nothing left for me to do. The rebellion is heading towards a war they won't win. And I need to be as far away from this conflict as I can get. I suggest you do the same.
I understand. But I'm not going anywhere.
Why? Is all of this struggle just to end up in the trash heaps of Raxus Prime really worth anything in the end?
Captain, come with me. I want to show you something.
Pip hopped off the engine and walked out the door as Caseus slowly stood and followed. Pip led Caseus into a large, dark room and flipped a switch on the wall as bright lights illuminated the area. Inside the chamber was the nebulous, broken down and damaged. Caseus stared in sadness at the wreckage of the gift that Sabo had given him.
While I was drifting, the nebulous collided with some debris. We've been fixing it up, but it's been a slow process.
Pip opened the ramp of the ship and walked inside, followed by Caseus. It was a mess. Utilities and tools lay about in disarray, along with cooking gear, boxes, and miscellaneous items. Caseus stared blankly at many of his old belongings and found, buried underneath the debris, his master's cloak. Picking it up, he caressed the fabric and held it to his face inside. Then he looked at Liara's room, the door still closed. Opening it, he walked inside. His heart ached as he looked upon the outfits she used to wear strewn across the floor. Master Takai's book, covered in dust, sat in the corner. Kneeling down, he picked up one of Liara's tunics that her mother had made for her, when something fell out of the pocket and clattered on the metal floor. A small blue cube. The toy Caseus had given her as an infant. Slowly, he grabbed it and looked at it. His eyes flowed with tears of grief, and he wept. Hunched over on his knees, clutching the cube tightly. Memories of her smile filling every crack and corner of his mind. A smile he would never see again. Her kind eyes. Her red hair. The weight of his guilt and his sorrow ached his heart, and in the deepest depths of his soul, he felt only a deadening pain.
Liara, I'm so sorry.
This is why I'm staying, Captain. Because Liara would have done the same. Liara believed in what we're doing. So do I.
Pip left the nebulous as Caseus sat in his grief. As the day drew to a close, Caseus had finally found the strength to leave the ship and return to his quarters where Gaidon was waiting for him. "Do you have a minute?" Caseus nodded and sat across from his old friend. "I can't pretend to understand the pain you've been through, Caseus. And after losing so much already. Vendel told me you want to leave. Is that true?" Caseus didn't respond, instead staring at the floor. "I don't want you to take this the wrong way, Caseus. But you aren't the only one who's suffering right now. All throughout the galaxy, millions are suffering under the reign of the Empire. And their plight is no less important or meaningful than yours. I didn't tell you yet that I got married, did I?" Caseus looked up at Gaidon with a faded look of surprise. "My wife, Sanja. I met her a few years back, when the Empire came to her planet. They killed her entire family, and all of her friends. She was the only one who survived. Not a day goes by where she doesn't grieve their loss. But she's chosen rebellion over hiding. Because to run would be a disgrace to their memory, and what they stood for. So why do you want to run? You say it's because the Empire can't be defeated, but there's another reason, isn't there?" Caseus kept a stern face as he gazed at the floor. "Caseus, let us help you. Please."
I can't let anyone else die because of me, Gaidon. No matter where I go. No matter who I meet. Trouble finds me. And I'm never the one paying the price. I thought I could move past it. I thought that maybe I still had a purpose in the galaxy. Liara was that purpose. The people that killed her did it because of me. And yet I'm still here. And she's gone. Helping the rebellion. Fighting back. In the end, it doesn't change the fact that I'll never see her again. Her mother will never see her again. I'm tired of trying to pretend that I can make a difference. That by doing good deeds, I can make up for my past failures.
And how will hiding make things any better for you?
It won't. I have to live with my mistakes and my loss. But I won't bring harm to any more innocents.
Guidom stared at Caseus in disappointment.
I'm sorry, Caseus.
If this is your decision, I won't stand in your way. I pray you find peace someday. Guidom stood and left the room. Caseus spent the rest of the day preparing for departure. He'd already given so much. At the very least, he was owed a transport to somewhere isolated. As he walked to the hangar, Caseus carried a small bag of provisions and gear and made his way to a group of pilots on break.
Caseus, wait up!
Caseus turned around and saw Bendel walking over.
Bendel, whatever you're going to say, don't. My mind is made up.
Maybe this'll change your mind. I found the people that killed Liara.
Caseus stood motionless as Bendel held out a data chip.
They've been living it up out in hut space.
Caseus reached for the chip as Bendel held it back.
Not so fast. You want to find them? You're taking us with you.
Who's us?
Me, Kresh, Tosa, and Daros. We're going to help you take them out of commission. Permanently.
Caseus looked at Bendel and at the chip. He expected to hear that voice in the back of his head, telling him not to do it, not to seek revenge. But he heard nothing. Moreover, he heard a different voice, encouraging him.
Get the Arabella ready. We leave in the hour.